Call Northborough K through 8 School Committee into session at 5:32 PM.
Call Southborough K-8 School Committee to order at 5:33, and we have 3 out of our 5 members present.
I call the Northborough Southborough Regional School Committee until session at 5:33 PM. We have 8 members, 2 are not attending currently.
And I will call the Superintendency Union number 3 to order. And the first order of business for the Superintendency Union number 3 is to nominate a chair. So I'll accept nominations for the chair. And before we do that, I'll just remind the committee that it is 3 members from Southborough. So it's
Northborough.
Chelsea, Laura, and Alan this year, and 3 members from Northborough, Lauren, Kelly, and Kristen.
Right.
And Bryce.
Rice. So this year, it is Northborough's turn to chair the region, the superintendency. So I'll accept any nominations from the Superintendency Union 3 for chair.
I'd like to nominate Lauren Bailey Jones to be chair.
We have a motion, second. We have a second. Any discussion? Seeing no discussion, Lauren, would you accept if?
I would accept this, thank you.
All right. We all in favor by hands? All right, congratulations, Lauren. Now it's your
Thank you.
turn to chair this meeting.
Perfect,
So-
excellent.
So we do, the next order of business is secretary and a vice chair. Yeah.
So I would like to nominate Bryce as vice chair of the Superintendency Union number 3.
Second.
Great, any discussion? Bryce, would you accept that position?
I would, thank you very much, yeah.
All right, all those in favor? And you do have to vote. Yeah. All right, perfect. It's unanimous, so you're now our vice chair. Thank you so much. And I'm going to ask for a nomination for secretary. There's only one person left who it can be. So I nominate Kelly as secretary.
Second.
Great, any discussion? And Kelly, do you accept?
No.
Who's going to take our copious notes?
Yes, it's me.
All right, all those in favor? Thank you so much. That's unanimous as well. Thank you so much, everyone. So we're going to begin our meeting today on Monday, June 16th for our combined open meeting with public comment. So if anyone does have public comment, I just want to remind you to state your name and address for the record. And so if there's anyone who is willing to speak, you can come on up here. All right, seeing as there is no public comment, I'm actually going to switch to agenda items. So I'd like to move up the reappointment of the school physician. So that is Dr. Medina, and I'd like to turn it over to Greg.
Sure, so we have an annual appointment for school physician and consultant contract. So we have been very fortunate to have Dr. Medina serve as the district physician. He gives countless hours and time and expertise. He works in collaboration with Mary Ellen Duggan, and I can't say enough about his role and his work in our community. And my recommendation is to reappoint Dr. Medina to the school physician consultant contract. And Dr. Medina is with us here this evening. So that is the motion on the table, and hopefully Dr. Medina will accept.
So at this time, I'd like to either entertain discussion or a motion. So when we do our motions, I think it would make sense to go Northborough, Southborough, and region. Is there any discussion before a motion?
I just think we owe you a few easier years compared to walking with you through COVID.
Absolutely, Kathleen. Anyone who was with us during the pandemic years know how instrumental Dr. Medina is to this district, and how, we navigated the pandemic thanks to his expertise and skill and compassion, and wonderful communication. So thank you so much, Dr. Medina. So I'm looking for a motion to reappoint our school physician as Dr. Medina.
So moved for Northborough?
Second.
No.
So Northborough first.
Second.
Perfect. All those in favor for Northborough? Great, that passes for Northborough. Southborough?
So move for Southborough?
Is there a second? Second. Any discussion? All in favor? Thank you. All opposed? I'm abstaining.
Abstain.
Okay.
Great, and Region?
So move for the region?
Second. Give it to Ken.
All those in favor, any discussion? All those in favor? It's unanimous.
Great, thank you so much.
Union, superintendent, union.
Sure, and the Superintendency Union, number 3, does need to vote as well, so I'll take the same motion.
So moved?
Second.
All those in favor? Great, that is unanimous, thank you so much.
Oh, Alan.
You're gonna
Oh,
abstain.
Alan, you are part of the union.
Yes.
So you would like to abstain? Okay, so for the record, Alan has abstained.
Right?
Great, thank you so much. Dr. Medina, thank you so much. Excellent, thank you.
And Lauren said it was going to be an easy year.
You have my
Should be
word.
good.
So now we're going to go back to agenda item number 2. And so that's our school committee interview and vote of the superintendent's recommendation for the Director of Student Support Services. So as you all are aware, Helen Desjardins is the finalist in this position. And so we do have some interview questions we'd like to ask her tonight. So we welcome her to the table. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And if it's helpful, I can have Heather Richards talk a little bit about the process leading us to this point this evening.
That'd be great. Thanks, Heather. Sure.
Yeah, sure. Hold on.
Feel free to pull up a chair.
All right. A moment. All right, good evening, everyone. So nice to see you. So as you know, we went through a thorough process for the interview for this Director of Student Support Services position. We relied on the school committee policy, or policies, with the 3 districts. And once we had notification that we would have an opening, we then took a look at the job description and made sure that the job description reflected what we were looking for. And we posted and advertised on several different websites. We used LinkedIn, School Spring, our district website, of course, and also it was posted on the ACE organization, and that is the Special Education Association in Massachusetts. So, and then once we advertised, we left the position out there to accept candidates, and we initially received about 8 candidates, and on the 20th, Mr. Martineau and I decided to pre-screen some of the candidates. Some of the candidates were in sitting teaching positions and had no administrator experience, so those individuals were not contacted, but those who have had administrator experience were pre-screened. And from there, after those pre-screened candidates, we decided to move 3 qualified candidates forward for consideration for the search committee. And the search committee then met on the 21st, and we went through developing interview questions, talking about what are the skills and traits that we'd like to see in the next candidate. And at that point, 2 candidates moved forward as semi-finalists. After that process, we decided to have another round of interviews with a different committee, and we had 3 individuals that were on the first committee in the second committee as well. So it's always nice to be able to have consistency and see how the candidates respond from one interview to the next. And so at that point, the 2 candidates were interviewed, and 1 candidate, Ms. Desjardins, has now arrived as the finalist for your consideration.
Thank you so much, Heather, and thank you
You're
for being
welcome.
with us tonight.
Thank you.
So to streamline the process, we gathered questions from committee members prior to tonight, and so I have those here, and so I'll just be asking you questions on behalf of all the committees. Thank you so much. So what are your thoughts on the recent changes to the yeah. Oh, absolutely. Oh, I see, it's bold, yes. So actually, you have a chance to give opening remarks first, so thank you.
We're eager to get to the
I would like to get to the questions as well, but thank you everyone for the opportunity. So I'm truly honored to be a finalist for this position. I entered the field of speech-language pathology because I had a strong desire to help people, and I was fascinated by the science of communication. While completing my master's degree in communication sciences and disorders, I had the opportunity to work with a variety of individuals, children, adults, the elderly, with a variety of needs. During that time, I was most drawn to working with children with complex communication needs in public school or in public school settings. That led me to my first job opportunity at Proctor Elementary School, where I provided speech and language services for students in inclusion, as well as students in some of our specialized programs. That was when the CASTLE program was first developed. Working with families who have students with complex learning challenges led me to want to further my role in leadership. That journey began in Southborough with the position of the Southborough team chairperson and then assistant director of student support services. During this time, I have had the opportunity to cultivate relationships with other district leaders, faculty and staff, families, as well as students. When I evaluate if I'm ready to advance my career, I think about a couple things. The first thing I think about is my family ready? So I am married. My husband is a public school educator in Westboro, and I have two girls. My oldest just graduated from high school and is headed off to college in the fall, and my youngest is about to enter high school. So I always evaluate how much support they need, and as they've been able to become more independent, it has led to changes in my career development. The second thing that I really try to evaluate is, am I ready for a move? So do I have the skills, the knowledge, the expertise, and the experience that I need to take that next step in my career? So I think that given my experiences in my time here in the district, I've done a lot of work on pursuing professional development and leadership, as well as continuing my education in the field of speech-language pathology. And I feel like I'm ready to take that next step. My vision for the district is to build an inclusive, collaborative, and data-driven environment where all students feel supported, valued, and empowered to reach their full potential. Hopefully, as I begin this journey, my entry plan is grounded in listening and learning. Though I know the district, every new leader requires a fresh perspective. It really requires engaging with educators, principals, families, and other staff members to understand what's working well and what are areas that we can improve. So this foundation will guide the development of a 3 to 5 year plan for the Student Support Services Department, one that aligns with our district goals and prioritizes growth for student achievement and well-being. Inclusion is at the heart of our work. To me, inclusion means creating classrooms where diverse learners can thrive alongside of their peers. I look forward to working closely with Dr. Reinhorn, as well as other coordinators, such as Megan Kelty, Kathy Lazat, Selvia Oyola, and other members of the teaching and learning team. We're really focused on increasing and expanding inclusion opportunities and co-teaching models and embedding inclusive practices in the classrooms. A critical part of advancing those goals is through intentional, high-quality professional development. In this role, I would be committed to designing and creating learning experiences that are responsive to the needs of our educators and aligned with our strategic priorities. Analysis of data is critical, and I will be rigorous in analyzing disaggregated data to understand any gaps and to determine how best to address those with targeted supports. I want to acknowledge the complexity of leading across 3 districts, each with its own budget and community priorities. until you sit in a leadership position in this district, I think it's hard to appreciate the competing, the challenges and balances of these competing interests. I think it's an opportunity to foster a shared vision, encourage cross-district collaboration, and leverage our combined strengths to benefit all students. And then finally, I recognize that leadership involves making difficult decisions, and then not everyone will always agree. My commitment is to keep the child's best interests in mind, respect diverse perspectives, seek to understand different viewpoints, and continuously work to improve how we partner with families and the community. I'm excited about the opportunity, and I hope that I will have the opportunity to serve in this role and create an environment where every student can thrive.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. So now we can begin the questions that we've compiled. So the first is about the IEP process. So what are your thoughts on the recent changes to the IEP process that pushes to gather more input from the students and their personal goals?
So for those of you who don't know, one of the recent changes with the new IEP this year is to gather a student vision for all of our learners. So in the past, with the old IEP, we would gather student input and around their vision and their goals when they were about to turn 14. So when they turned 13, going into their 14th birthday, that's when we would gather that information. So this change with the new IEP requires that we work with our students as young as 3 years old to gather their vision and some of their goals. I think it's important. I think that it helps us to keep the process student-centered. It helps because the vision is at the very beginning of the document. It really helps to frame the IEP, the development of goals, objectives, services, and accommodations, and all of those aspects of the IEP to keep in mind what the student wants for themselves. I think it's also a reminder to all teams of what we're looking for all of our students. We think about Portrait of a Graduate. We think about our district mission statement, and I think that this is a reminder for all of our teams to really think about maximizing student potential so that they can be ready to tackle their life goals when they leave us.
Thank you. What do you see as the most constrained resource available to the Director of Student Support Services, and what would you do to fill any gaps that this may create?
I think that I would have two. I think I will talk about the budget first. The second one would be time. I think everyone knows in lots of professions that people are looking for more time. I think that there are challenges that are fiscal, and it is, I think, the climate that the world is living in is not only our communities. There have been recent increases in costs for things like transportation, out-of-district programming, health insurance, amongst other things, and I think those impact the budget. I think that ways to fill those gaps, and what's important is ensuring that we're utilizing our resources in the best way possible. I think it's important to evaluate what resources we have, their effectiveness and their efficiency, to ensure that we are utilizing everything we have available to us to meet student needs. I think it's important to look at our substantially separate programs and reevaluate over time what the needs of the students in those programs are, and then how best to meet those needs, and do we have the professionals and the resources that we need to do that. I think that we need to continue to pursue grant opportunities. We need to pursue offerings from the Department of Education. Last year, the DESE offered a Dyslexia Institute with Crafting Minds at no cost to districts, and we were able to send 2 teams, one from Northborough, one from Southborough, to gain that knowledge around identifying students with specific learning disabilities and how best to serve them. And I think that was a really important opportunity, and I think we need to continue to look for those opportunities and take advantage of them when we can. I think there is a piece to the budget that also involves advocacy and really advocating for what our students need and what our teachers need in order to best service our students.
Thank you. As the current Assistant Director of Student Support Services, you're well aware of the inner workings of Northborough, Southborough, and regional school systems. Do you see any deficiencies within the current system that can be addressed within the next few years?
I think that what I would like to address is how we share data amongst educators. So our teachers are committed to utilizing data to inform instruction, to inform best practices, utilizing high-quality instructional practices and materials. And I think that sometimes we can be working in silos where we don't have a process in place for that cross-collaboration. So when I think about Dibbles assessments in the early grades, our reading specialists, our ELA team, they do an outstanding job of, doing that screening for all students, utilizing that data, things like that, and putting interventions into place for students who require it. What I would like to see and move towards is data meetings where we are sharing that information and that data between not only the reading specialists, but also with classroom teachers, special education teams, math interventionists, so that ELD folks, so that we are all working together to improve student learning. I think that will help lead us to a more robust MTSS model, and it will improve our outcomes for students.
Thank you. The next question is a long one.
Okay.
So with over 17 years of experience supporting students, families, and educators in our 3 districts, you've been involved with implementing mandates from DESE. So based on your educational background and your special education experience, what would be one mandate or improvement that you would like to implement that would improve the delivery of services to our students, and why? And if you need me to repeat that, just let me know.
So this isn't a mandate from the department, but this is an improvement that we have been talking about in our department all year, which is utilizing co-teaching as a model of instruction for our students. There are a lot of benefits for co-teaching. It builds inclusive practices in the classroom. It has positive social outcomes for all students. It increases face time between teacher and student, and it allows for students with different learning challenges to be engaged in learning opportunities within the general education classroom. Currently, we utilize a lot of different models for service delivery, including pull-out services, push-in services into classrooms, for all areas, speech, OT, PT, special education. And utilizing a co-teaching model will help to increase that student access within the classroom, rather than having students be leaving and returning and leaving and returning, and increasing those transitions, which can often be really hard for students with disabilities.
Thank you. Can you describe your entry plan in this position?
So I think the important components of an entry plan is first to listen and to learn. So I know I have been in the district a really long time. I will say that there are buildings that I interact with more frequently than others, the way that we have kind of divided our responsibilities over the years. For example, Kate Clark does a lot of the work with the high school. I have not had a lot of work in the high school other than the coordination of ESY with the faculty and staff. Similarly, when I was team chair in Southborough, I worked with Southborough teams often, and I have done some work in some of the Northborough schools. That being said, I think it's important to meet with staff and other district leaders, building principals, to listen and learn about what they think are the successes and the real strengths of the student support department, and what are areas of challenge, and maybe areas that we could grow, and how best to support their students and their staff. So I think that piece of working with administrators is important, as well as the district level administrators, the teaching and learning team, you know, Sylvie, Maggie, Kathy, Megan, and working with all of them to understand what their needs are from a leader in this position. For the Parent Advisory Council, our Parent Advisory Council board has retired, all of them. So we'll have a new Parent Advisory Council. I think that it's important to build a relationship with the Parent Advisory Council because they really are, they give us a lot of the feedback from the community. So, and I think it's important to really be working with them closely to understand what parents are finding challenges and how we can support parents. So that is a big piece of it as well. I think that evaluating and looking at data trends over time, looking at our performance data for our students on IEPs, looking at trends in terms of the numbers of students on IEPs, the number of evaluations that we're doing, and the reasons why those things are happening is really important, and that would be part of the entry plan. I think when you enter a new position, there are things you can anticipate, and then there are things that you can't, and I think it's important to hold on to that space and have room to take on and really learn about things that are unexpected.
Thank you. As an internal candidate, what do you see as advantages and disadvantages?
I think I'll start with disadvantages, and I think the one that comes to mind being an internal candidate is that you don't have someone to bring an outside perspective. So when you hire someone who comes from another district or maybe has more experience working in multiple districts, they will have had a different experience, possibly different formats, different educational models, different their fiscal climate may be different. So when you bring someone who does not work in the district into the district, when you don't bring someone from outside the district, you lack that perspective. I think the advantages of being someone who's in the district is that I do have a lot of strong relationships with faculty and staff and administrators, as well as family and students, that I understand the strengths and some of the challenges within the district, and I feel like I'm maybe a little bit of a step ahead of someone new coming into the district who would have to learn those things. I think that it's important, and I think it's an advantage to understand the procedures, to understand our policies that are already in place, to know and have worked with the strategic plan and worked with the district level administrators on developing the strategic plan, and then how do we move the strategic plan forward.
Thank you. Can you speak to working with families who believe that the special education team or district are not working in the best interest of their children? And when there is a disagreement that can't be resolved, what would the steps be?
Unfortunately, that happens. I think that what I try to do with the families that I have interacted with is build relationships. I think we all try and do that as leaders, is build positive working relationships with our staff and with our families, because we don't always agree, and not every conversation is easy. And when you have a strong foundation of a relationship, those challenging conversations can be a little easier. It doesn't mean that it always goes smoothly. There are disagreements that happen. Parents' job is to advocate for their children. I tell parents all the time, I would never fault a parent for advocating for what they think is right for their child. What the team's responsibility is to review the data and to make decisions based on data. So the first piece of resolving disputes is really going back to the team process, seeing if we can get the team together, look at data, understand why the parents are feeling one way or wanting something or not wanting something, and talk about what data has led us to take that step and make that recommendation. Sometimes that's enough. Sometimes that is enough of getting the team together, talking it through, planning progress meetings to happen to continue to review the data. And sometimes that's not enough. I have had conversations with parents, separately from the team, just to really understand what their thoughts are. Try and bridge a gap with the team sometimes if that's what's needed. Unfortunately, sometimes relationships can be broken and trust can be broken, and that's a hard space for our staff to be in and for families to be in, because the staff is trying to do what's in the best interest of the child, utilizing their expertise and the data that they have. So there are dispute resolutions. So there are things available to us through the BSEA. We always provide parents with their notice of procedural safeguards when we have disagreement, so that they have and understand what their rights are. We have utilized different resolution techniques in the past, including facilitated team meetings, which is where the Department of Education sends a facilitator. Different from mediation, but just a facilitator to move you through the IEP process. We've also utilized mediation with families. Families have chosen to utilize the problem resolution system, PRS, to help resolve disputes. There's always BSEA and filing for hearing, and those things happen as well. And we will, the preferred method is to bring it back to the team and see if the team can work together toward a solution. But like I said, once we've kind of entered into a space where trust is broken and relationships are fractured, it's sometimes hard to move that forward without an outside party.
Thank you. And so we have one more question this evening. What strategies would you use to engage families and caregivers in their children's education and support?
So first, I think having open lines of communication is important. I think that there are a variety of ways to do that. There are many of our administrators utilize things like parent coffees or office hours, things like that, to hear from families and understand their experience and what they might need from the district. I think that obviously our buildings are great about having volunteers in, and that's a way to engage families in their education, in their child's education. I think about improving our district website for student support services, including more information about resources available to families within the community, providing some trainings for parents, whether it be through collaboration with the NSPAC or separately from that, and doing that within the district during the day or in the evenings. I think that is really important to help engage families. Bless you. And I just think that having those open lines of communication and having parents really know and understand that, the district wants to work with them to improve their student experience here in the school and give them the skills that they need to be successful adults, and that open line of communication in doing that, I think, is really important.
Thank you so much. So because we had a streamlined process to collect questions, I would prefer to keep it to these questions just to move the meeting along, unless anyone has something to ask in clarity of something that our finalist has spoken to this evening. Does anyone have any clarifying questions? Yes, Paul?
I have one little follow-up. You mentioned data a few times, and I'm just wondering what we mean by data in this instance.
So there's a lot of things. We collect data on general education. They're constantly assessing how students are doing. We collect DIBELS data throughout the year. As it specifically pertains to student IEPs, we're really looking at what are the goals and objectives outlined in their IEPs, and how are they progressing towards meeting those goals and objectives, and that's done through data collection. So specific to the IEP, that's the data that I'm talking about, but thinking about the context of a student experience and all of the tests they take, the projects they do, the papers they write, and all of those things. That's the data that we use to measure whether students are acquiring skills or not, and then what needs to change based on that.
Thank you.
Joan?
I have a follow-up to the question about what would you like to implement, and you talked about co-teaching. I've observed that model, and it is fantastic. Do we have any current classes in any of the 3 districts that are co-taught? And if not, what would it take, because we're going to be doing the budget, believe it or not, starting in October, what would it take to get more, I'm assuming it's going to have to be more staff, or could you utilize the staff you have?
So our plan is to utilize the staff we have. So to answer the first question, we do not have any co-teaching happening currently. We do have a pilot program that we're starting next year. So we have 5 pairs of teachers identified in the elementary schools across Northborough and Southborough. So it is 4 general education teachers with a special education teacher, and then the other pair is a general education teacher and a speech language pathologist at the first grade level for that classroom. And we, Deb actually, who's here, is doing a lot of the work in professional development in doing that training. So we have those 5 pairs identified. We worked with principals and staff to identify who would be interested in doing a co-teaching model. They did come and do 1 day of professional development already. We have more professional development scheduled for the summer for them. That is something that we thought about utilizing funds for over the course of the last year. We are able to do a lot of it internally, so we aren't necessarily contracting any of that service out. And then we are going to have those 5 teachers meet. We want to do this right, which means they need co-planning time, they need just time to look at data together, they need time to plan, all of those things. And then we're going to have meetings throughout the course of the year next year, more professional development time to reflect on their practice and continue to grow based on the co-teaching model that they're using. Our goal would be to expand that opportunity not only in the elementary schools, but also into the middle school and the high school.
I just say fabulous, and I think anytime we've done any new curriculum initiative, especially through Stephanie, it's been at a small scale to work at, to get those peer teachers to do it and to be the models then, and then to expand it. Congratulations that you already got it off. The 5 teachers are great, and even having a speech pathologist, fabulous, fabulous.
Thank you. And can I have clarity on the pronunciation of your last name?
Desjardins.
Desjardins. Okay, thank you so much.
And if you're standing up in front of a large group of people, it's even harder to pronounce.
So I'm looking for a motion to appoint Helen Desjardins as our Director of Student Support Services. First from Northborough.
So moved.
Motion from Joan.
Second.
Second from Kristen. Any discussion? All those in favor? That passes unanimously. Southborough.
Is there a motion?
So move.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Unanimous, thank you.
Thank you, Region.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, all in favor? And it's unanimous.
Thank you. And the union. Why not?
Why not?
Why not? Let's do the
Never
union.
hurts.
I'll move for the union.
Second?
Great. All those in favor? Great. Thank you so much. Ms. Desjardins, congratulations.
Thank you very much, everyone.
We start work at 6 a.m.
Thank you, everyone, for all of your thoughtful questions. Much appreciated. So next is the approval of legal counsel agreements. I'm going to turn over to Greg for an update on that.
Sure. I was just reading and reviewing the school committee's responsibilities, and a significant responsibility is selecting legal counsel. A few years ago, we did make a shift in legal counsel and hired Khan and Smagula LLP. They've been with us for, this is our 3rd year. I think the purpose of me bringing this to the table is just to get it back on track for doing an annual review of the agreement and approval from the school committee.
Great, thank you. So no action is required this evening. Next, we have the approval of the school committee meeting dates for the 2025-2026 school year. So you do see that in your packet. Looks like we'll be following sort of a similar way that we have our meetings lined up. Any further comments on that, Greg?
No, so Cheryl went through all of the key dates and religious observances to make sure we did not have meetings scheduled on those days. She also has worked closely with the school principals to make sure that there are no conflicts in terms of school events and school committee meetings. And I'm sure we will find a conflict, but we've tried to do our due diligence to avoid any conflicts in the schedule.
Thank you. Any comments on the calendar proposal for our meeting dates next year? All right, thank you so much. So we're going to move on to policy. So first, we have an update from the superintendent before we move on to our second readings.
Sure. So as the committees are aware, there were several policies that were brought forward for consideration, some which were brought forward as a result of the events that took place at Neary School at the end of last year. The policy subcommittees and committees divided and conquered in terms of looking at these policies, reviewing them, and then bringing them back to the larger committees for review. The policies before you have been reviewed by legal counsel. Several of the policies after the last combined meeting where these policies were reviewed for first reading did go back to small working groups and some updates were made. But the policies before you this evening really reflect policies that are ready for a second read and approval. However, it's not required that the school committees approve after second reading. If there are issues with a policy that they want to be considered further, they can be brought back to the working groups.
Great, thank you. So we have 6 policies. So these are all second reads. So the first one is bullying prevention and intervention.
There were no updates from the first read to the second read regarding this particular policy.
Okay. I know that this was looked at length. Are there any comments before we vote this in? All right, so I'm going to look for a motion from Northborough to approve the bullying prevention and intervention policy A150.
So moved.
Second?
Motion by Kristen, seconded by Bryce. Any discussion? All in favor? All opposed? All abstentions? Abstain from Kelly. And that passes by Northborough. Southborough.
So moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you, Region. So moved.
Second. I'm sorry, who?
Who was the
Any-
second, just for now?
Second.
Chris, thank you.
Any discussion? All in favor? And it's unanimous.
Thank you so much. So next we have, I don't know, maybe we want to sort of take the next two at the same time, but the Civil Rights Non-Discrimination Policy, A180, and then the Title IX Sexual Harassment Policy, A190, which I know Heather and the Policy Development Subcommittee Working Group worked on at length. So this is our second read after the many edits that were put to those policies. Any further comments by Greg or Heather on those?
Sure, I can make some general comments and Heather fill in any blanks. So this policy was one that CIC, who did the external audit of the events last year, made significant recommendations around civil rights non-discrimination policy. So the first read in March to now, there have been several edits Those are included in the second read document to ensure that all the recommendations CIC had are incorporated into this policy.
Thank you. Before we look for motions, any general discussion from anyone on these two policies?
I have something to add.
Sure.
So we just met this past week, I believe, for this. We have not brought it back to the full committee, to, as you mentioned at the beginning. So I'm sure, if this full subcommittee has had a chance to look through, that's fine, but I wanted to make that clarification.
That it has not reached the full policy subcommittee?
It did not, yeah, it has not gone back
Okay.
for a full policy review.
Thank you. I will make a motion to approve the Civil Rights Non-Discrimination Policy A-180 and the Title IX Sexual Harassment Policy A-190.
So moved.
We'll give it to Bryce, and then we'll give it to Kristen for a second. Perfect. Any discussion? Great. All those in favor? All those opposed? And abstained? And Kelly is abstaining. All right, that passes from Northborough. Southborough.
I'll move that we accept A-180 as presented. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
I have a question.
Go ahead.
So Jen said the policy, this subcommittee policy hasn't looked at this? So,
We broke up into those groups.
Right.
And our group looked at it.
Right.
So I wanted to clarify that the whole subcommittee, policy subcommittee has not, normally we'll review this as a whole group. We have not done that. It's just been a smaller group.
so knowing that you haven't reviewed it as a whole group, is there a timing issue here at all? Or are we approving something that then could come back to be modified, sooner than later?
So I can comment on process. So although that has been our process, bringing it back to the policy subcommittee, there were some recommended changes, again, to make sure that all the CIC recommendations were incorporated. If you look at the changes, I think they're not minor, but there's some clarification changes, and also incorporate a few recommendations that weren't captured. But it is well in the purview for the committees to decide this evening to approve or not to approve, or bring it back to the policy subcommittees. My recommendation is to not. I think it's important to approve this policy, and I think it does check all the boxes based on CIC's recommendations.
Would you like me to summarize the changes?
That might be helpful, Heather. Thank you.
So some of the changes that we've put forward, we're just making sure that the timelines were really clear. And there are also a couple of places where we made sure that the parents were notified, or parents or guardian was notified if something was happening. So that's in the document a few times now. There are also a few places where as far as notifications, when something happens, we made sure that the district civil rights coordinator, which is one of my roles, is always notified in addition to the superintendent, so that we are all in the same, have the same communication at the same time. And then some of the other changes in there were around record keeping and process with record keeping, as far as like the investigative record, all of the notes that are taken, how is that maintained in the files. And in addition to that, there's another portion in there around privacy, stating like personnel records are exempt and from the investigative reports, and those being made public. So, and that's typical. Personnel records are protected documents anyhow. But that's a brief summary of the changes.
Thank you. Any questions for Heather? Okay, and Chelsea, I just want to make a clarification. So the motion from Northborough was to approve both A-180 and
Oh,
A-190.
sorry. I
No,
amend
that's
my
fine.
motion to be A-180 and A-190.
Okay.
Thank you. And then just one other comment. related specifically to A180 is CIC had recommended that we develop a distribution around this policy to make sure all families, faculty, and staff are aware. So I think there's hopefully going to be a second step to this. Obviously, it won't be included in the policy, but we need to figure out how we're going to distribute this to families so that people are aware.
Thank you.
All right, so Southborough, all in favor? Unanimous, thank you.
Thank you. And for the region?
I'll entertain a motion. Any discussion? All in favor? And it passes unanimously.
Great, thank you. And that was Sean O'Shea for the motion and Paul for a second. Thank you so much. So we have two more policies. So we have the animal on school premises during school hours, I-250. So about, I think this time, maybe last year, we had this policy and there were a few, we had approved it, I believe, but then we wanted to bring it back to the policy subcommittee to look at some of the wording, especially around like when does school start? When are dogs and pets allowed on school premises? Is it when, you know, the school day begins? There have been some updates based on that discussion. Kristen, did you want to add anything else about the policy?
I think that pretty much summed up why we brought it back, and then we added sort of a section on the end as well to sort of specifically talk about, you know, therapy dogs, and specifically point out that a dog should always be under the owner's control at all times and leashed at all times, particularly because one of the main problems we were having was people bringing their dogs onto school property even while school was in session, or letting them go on the playgrounds, particularly the ones that are fenced in, and just sort of letting them run around. And they were leaving presents in lots of places and causing damage. And of course, also there's children who are allergic and children who are afraid of dogs and stuff. So we wanted to be more specific and more clear, because I think a lot of the feedback, at least that I got when I talked to both people in the schools and also people in the community, was that there was not a lot of clarity on what was allowed and what wasn't. So that was one of the goals that hopefully we achieved as well.
Great, thank you. So I'm looking for a motion to approve animals on school premises during school hours, I-250 from Northborough.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Joan, seconded by Bryce. Any discussion? All those in favor? And opposed? And abstained. And Kelly is abstained, and that motion passes. Thank you, Southborough.
All right, I move that we approve I-250. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Abstain? Okay, 4-0-1, thank you.
I'll entertain that same motion for the region.
So moved. Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? And that passes unanimously.
And can I just, a point of clarification, that the only policy that had revisions from the first read is the civil rights non-discrimination policy. All the other policies have not changed. There are no additional comments or input. So those are as they were when they were presented in March.
Thank you. At our last, actually, I'm sorry, there's a page break. So we actually do have two more. So the religious observance policy, I-340. So I'm gonna look for a motion from Northborough to approve that policy.
So moved to approve I-340.
Perfect.
Second.
Moved by Kristen, seconded by Joan. Any discussion? All right, all those in favor? All those opposed? And abstained? All right, so it passes 3-2. So Joan, Kristen, and Lauren were for, and Kelly and Bryce were opposed. Thank you.
Abstain.
Abstain.
Oh, I apologize. For the record, they are abstained, not opposed. Thank you so much. Southborough.
I move that we approve I-340. Is there a second? Second by Laura. Any
Question?
discussion? Yeah,
So this is now religious and cultural observance policy,
yes,
modified from religious observance policy, correct?
yes. Any other discussion? All in favor? Unanimous, thank you.
Region.
I will entertain that same motion for the region.
Second.
Any discussion?
I have a question. When it says that nobody can be penalized for missing academic or athletic or extracurricular activities, does MIAA trump that? No? That this policy would stand and therefore
Yes.
they would not be?
They also have religious exemptions.
Okay, all right, thank you for clarifying.
Any other questions, comments? All in favor? Any opposed? Abstain.
Abstain.
So that's 7 in favor, 1 abstention.
Thank you. And then our last one is a new policy. It's our international or out-of-country field trips policy, and this is a policy for the region. Would anyone like to give just a brief summary of the work on that policy?
So there were no changes since the March 1st reading. Again, this policy allows for international travel with guardrails and guidelines. This is a policy that, as the regional committee members are aware, has been in discussion pre-COVID, so for many years. And, I think the policy is as written and has been vetted by legal counsel.
I'm sure that there are educators waiting for this policy and probably have their trips just about lined up and ready for this policy to be passed. So, do you feel like the policy as written gives those guidelines that educators will need to be successful in planning their trips?
So no pun intended, it will take a runway to get this launched. And it'll be I would expect about a year process to actually start thinking about approving international trips. So I would expect in 26, 27, the first trip to happen.
Great, thank you. So I'm going to turn it over to Region.
So I will entertain a motion to approve the international out-of-country field trips policy I-185.
I move to accept policy I-185.
Second.
Any discussion?
Who got the second?
Say John.
Aye.
Oh, thanks, John.
All in favor? And that unanimously passes.
Thank you so much. Thank you to the policy subcommittee and the working groups for all their work this year on a lot of these very robust policies. So thanks so much. I think my only suggestion would be to definitely bring the international policy back next year once we see what those road bumps are in the policy. And then just keep tabs on the civil rights non-discrimination policy. All right, next is a personnel update from Greg.
So in your packet is the personnel report as of June 16th. So we have Deb Young, who has been an outstanding admin assistant to the Department of Multilingual Learners, retiring as of June 30th. So we were fortunate to onboard or to hire a person to fill her shoes. She's been actually training with Deb, and Deb has also shared that she's willing to help out and make sure that the person has a smooth transition into the position if she needs help over the summer and into the fall. We also have filled the Information Technology Infrastructure Manager position. That position has been open for most of the year. I think John Parent has wanted to make sure we find the right person, and we feel like we have found the right person. So Kyle has started on May 27th. And then just retirement, so Marie Allen, who has served in her current role as Director of Student Support Services, has been the director for the past decade. So she has done a wonderful job, and due to some health reasons, she's not able to be in person or be present. So when she's able, the district will make sure that we provide a celebration where we can thank her and acknowledge her for her years of service.
Thank you. Thank you so much. We look forward to recognizing Marie at a future meeting. So next we have our action on minutes. So we have a few different sets with some different groups that need to be approving them. So because of that, I think we're just gonna go right in order. So first, we have the action on the combined open meeting minutes of March 12th, 2025, and I'm looking for a motion from Northborough to approve those.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Bryce, seconded by Joan. Any discussion? All in favor? That passes unanimously. Thank you.
Southborough moves that we approve the meeting minutes of March 12th, 2025. Is there a second?
Second.
Alan, any discussion? All in favor? 5-0, thank you.
I'll entertain the same motion to approve those minutes from Region.
So moved.
Second. Any discussion? And all those in favor? Passes unanimously.
And who was the second for that? Kathleen, thank you. We'll give it to Kathleen. And I'm looking for a motion from the union.
So moved.
I'll second. Moved by Chelsea, seconded by Lauren. Any discussion? Great, all those in favor? Okay, that's everyone, right? Yes, thank you. And that passes. So next, we need just the region for the action on the Joint Policy Development Subcommittee meeting minutes of October 21st, 2024.
I'll move to approve the action on the Joint Policy Development Subcommittee meeting minutes of October 21st, 2024.
Second?
Any discussion? All those in favor? That's unanimous.
Thank you. And then this is just for Northborough, Southborough in the region. So then we have our Joint Policy Development Subcommittee meeting minutes of February 13th, 2025. I move to approve those meeting minutes.
Second.
Moved by Lauren, seconded by Kristen. Any discussion? All in favor? It's approved unanimously. Thank you.
And I move that Southborough approve the Joint Policy Development Subcommittee meeting minutes of February 13th, 2025. Is there a second?
Second.
By Laura. Any discussion? All in favor? Unanimous. Thank you.
I will make that same motion for the region.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Passes unanimously.
Great, thank you so much, everyone. I'm going to turn it over to Roger and Chris. So they've been doing a lot of work this year on the superintendent's 2024-2025 summative evaluation. Thank you so much for your leadership, and I'll turn it over to you. Thank you.
Can I just make one comment about the minutes? I'll always want to appreciate and thank Cheryl Lepre for keeping the committees and minutes on target and on schedule. It's a lot of minutes, and she does an excellent job making sure they're approved and we're following open meeting law. So just a public acknowledgement of Cheryl Lepre.
Absolutely. Thanks, Cheryl.
Okay. As folks know, one of the important functions of the school committee is to review the superintendent's performance. And this is a process we go through every year. I guess I'm going to say the task of kind of coordinating the information really generally, and it did again this year, falls to the chair of the region and the chair of the superintendency, union number 3, which were Chris and I. So I'd like to thank just a couple of, well, like one group and then a person. So thanks to all of the school committee members, we actually had more than 100% contribution of the evaluation forms. We actually had an outgoing member and an incoming member for that seat submit evaluations. So we actually got one more than the number of school committee members. So I don't think anyone will ever beat that record. And so appreciate all of your willingness to get this done, because you know it's not required, but we very much appreciate it. I also want to thank Kathleen Polichko. She won't want me to thank her. But Chris, this is a new process for Chris and I. You know, we hadn't done this before, even though we've been on school committees for a while. So we wanted to at least kind of run by what we ended up with to someone that had done it. And I did promise Kathleen that I would give her no credit.
Good
So
job, Roger.
I'm here to make sure that she knows I'm not giving her any credit, okay? But the kind of the final form, certainly on form, would not have been, as well presented without her. I think what I'll do is I'm simply going to read the overall rating. I think you, and then turn it back, to Lauren if there's any questions that people would have. Let me just read this, if I might. The superintendent's overall performance rating is based on an examination of the evidence of the superintendent's performance against the 4 performance standards and the superintendent's attainment of goals set forth in the superintendent goal plan and the school committee's professional judgment. So really all those together. The evaluation tool is provided by the Department of Elementary Education, DESE, and the end-of-cycle summative evaluation report, superintendent, and I guess it's the 2019 version. I looked at that a couple times as I was saying, why does it say 2019? I guess it's been the same version since then. The overall summative performance that is reported to DESE is based on Step 1 and Step 2 ratings. And Step 1 is really to assess progress toward goals, which can be exceeded, met, significant progress, some progress, or did not meet. And Step 2 is really to assess the performance on standards. And those could be exemplary, proficient, needs improvement, unsatisfactory. And at this time, based on the level of attainment in each standard, Superintendent Marno's rating is at the exemplary level. The defining characteristics of overall exemplary performance are consistency, the ability to model highly effective practices, and empower others to achieve high expectations. An exemplary rating is a high level with demanding expectations. Superintendent Martineau's work has positively impacted all the staff and students of the 3 districts he leads. He has encountered a number of quite challenging situations in the performance of his duties and has effectively handled all of them. We look forward to having many more years with Superintendent Martineau at the helm of our 3 districts, continuing to move us forward with concerted and targeted efforts to unify our community of increasingly diverse learners. The end.
Great, thank
Lauren?
you so much. So I would like to just open it up for any questions or discussion. And if Roger and Chris could sort of field some of those questions or comments, that would be appreciated.
Yeah, and if I might, Chris, did you have anything to add to at least what I described as the process or anything at all? Since you played a huge role in the bulk of the work of putting these all together, my goodness.
Well, it's definitely a team. It's definitely a team effort, and certainly, in addition to running it by Kathleen Plichko, we also asked Cheryl Lepere for a little bit of editing, but she was kind enough to perform as well.
Very true.
I would say you really encapsulated everything really well. I mean, there's some more additional information available in the introduction, specifically when we met with Greg, when we discussed his goals. And, those meetings were nothing but open and honest and productive. And it really is, it's really a credit to this district to have Superintendent Martineau at the helm. I mean, that's not an exaggeration. We've gone through a lot these 3 districts have gone through a lot. Southborough has certainly gone through a lot. And it's been handled with grace, and it's been handled with care, and it's been handled very thoughtfully. So in terms of process, like Roger said, never having done this before, I didn't really know what to expect. Trying to consolidate large numbers of basically narrative responses, and thank you for those responses, was a challenge. And I think you see a good product of a lot of work. Your work as the 3 committees and the superintendent's. So, thank you very much.
Can I follow on a comment you made about the narratives? I mean, I'm not sure I recall exactly, you know, what the breakdown of, you know, check the box versus narratives, okay? And it's easy to, I mean, I think thoughtfully, when people check a box, it is thoughtful. But I was impressed with how many people took the time to add narratives to many different areas. Makes it harder to amalgamate, but nonetheless, it certainly makes it a more complete, you know, evaluation.
I'd also like to give Greg an opportunity, if you have any reflection on the evaluation process or anything in the multi-page evaluation document that was created by Chris and Roger.
Thank you. So I would share that it's probably my least favorite task is public evaluation, but I also appreciate the transparency and the purpose of it. I have grown as a leader from the feedback that I have received from the committee. Many of you will say, oh, Greg's humble, but the work is humbling. And it's really, the only way we can do it is by a team effort, having strong colleagues around me to support the work and to lead the work. So I see the evaluation of the superintendent reflective of the work of many and a rating of many, not just my performance.
Thank you, Greg. Are there any other comments about the evaluation process or what's in the evaluation document? Joan?
I would just like to commend the 2 chairs, because it's not an easy task to do this, and it is a year-long process, because you start even before we come together in September and meet with Greg and, you know, go over what his goals are. And then we also get the 2 or 3 updates that we get. We'll get one in December. And it's an open process. I think it's one of the most open processes I've seen on an evaluation, very similar to what the teachers do. And I've never seen an administrative one, assistant superintendent, but as a teacher, it is a year-long process. And it's a good process because Greg always shows us the evidence, and that can come back to us. I don't know about anybody else in this committee, but I always save those 3 or 2 updates that Greg gives us, because that gives a real good where he is and where Greg sees that the district wants to go, or where improvements have to be made, and say, okay, from December to March, did he achieve those goals that he had to do? But it is not an easy task, and I was glad to see that there was 100% on it this time. That's great. I think last year we had 89%. So, hey, school committee, we showed improvement too. So, and it is not an easy task. It isn't. But, and just one thing that I'd like to say, and I was thinking previous coming up from Connecticut, what would I say? What would be the best thing that I would say of Greg? And I think the best thing that I would say is Northborough's gone through some transition of town administrators. So we had some interims, and we haven't had, now we do, we have a town administrator who's going to be here for a while. But even while it was, you know, no one from the town giving direction to Greg, Greg and his staff began the budget process in October. And they worked on it. He had the self-direction to do it and still did it knowing, okay, even though there might be, Southborough, you were fine with your town administrator, but not getting any direction, Greg still went ahead and knew what he had to do. And that is the most important thing that we have to do as school committee members, is look over that budget and the policies. And we just went through all the policies right now. So the budget is a very important thing. Greg had to start out at a high number, try to give everything that we could, and to, you know, that the staff gave him, and yet brought it into a number that was passed unanimous in both towns. So I think that's very important, and that's the strength of an administrator who can still go and do it and do the hard work and know what the goal is going to be. So I'd like to applaud Greg for that, along with it. He knows all the educational stuff, but I think the budget's the hardest. Thank you, Greg.
Thank you, Joan.
Thank you, Becky.
I just have one comment.
Thanks, Becky.
Just have one comment. When going through this process for my own evaluation of Greg, I went back to his evaluation from last year with all the narratives, and it was obvious to me that the feedback he received last year, he worked on throughout this year, even outside of the goals that were defined for this year. So I just think it's important for the public to know that he does take our comments seriously, and at least from the Southborough side, I think a year ago, there was a lot of constructive feedback given to Greg at this meeting, and I feel that it was taken seriously and that we're a better district now because of the actions that Greg has taken in the last year. So I just want to thank you for all of your work and kind of making sure that from a Southborough perspective, that the actions were taken seriously. So thank you.
Thank you. Kathleen?
I will say that I took copious notes when you interviewed. I brought them to you last summer, actually, as part of our discussion, and I like to reflect on them because who you showed up is who you said you would be, and I think there's been a great consistency in who you've been, and I really just appreciate it. I find this is one of the loveliest volunteer opportunities that I'm given. And it speaks to the quality and bringing Steph in, seeing where UDL is going and all of this. I think it's just marvelous. So I'm glad to sell. It's not your favorite night. It happens to be mine.
Thank you. Yes, Kathleen?
So I think it's important to remind new people who might be watching, maybe new people here on our committees, that what Greg is doing is actually two jobs, because he is absolutely the superintendent of two very different and distinct, technically three if you count the region, but you know, every region has every district has a high school, so we'll say two. And I've known a lot of superintendents because I've been around a long time, and so my favorite analogy to our situation was, it's like being the parent of three children. And you love them all the same, but sometimes one or the other will need more attention. So in the past, some superintendents have sort of been like this and some like this. But what makes Greg so special is he is just like this. Like he never, like nothing ever rattles him. He never sits there and says, no, I can't handle this. I have to do this. Everybody gets the attention that they need. And it's just a huge testament to him and to the people that he selected to have around him on his team that all do such a spectacular job. And I think a lot of the reasons they do it is because they want to do it for you.
Mm-hmm.
So exemplary is absolutely what this man deserves.
Thank you. So we do need to move to executive session. When we do that, we do need to do roll call vote in order to move to executive session. I think to make it easier, we should just make motions and then seconds, and then maybe just go around the table. That might just make it a little bit more efficient. So for Northborough, I'm gonna move to executive session to conduct contract negotiations with non-union personnel, the superintendent of schools, with the intent to reconvene in open session.
Moved for Northborough.
Sure, so moved by Joan, second by Kristen. All right, same motion for Southborough.
So moved.
Roger, for a second.
Second.
By Laura.
Second by Laura. Regent?
So moved.
Second.
Jen for move, and
Sean.
Sean for second. And I don't know if we need to do unions.
Yes.
I think you did.
Okay, let's do union.
So moved?
So move, Bryce.
Second.
Second by Chelsea. All right, so let's just go around the table. Roger?
Yes.
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 Aye.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. All right, so we'll move to executive session. The time is 6:52 PM.
You can use the.
Great. Thank you so much. So the time is 7:29. We are back in open session. So per our discussion, I'm going to turn it over to Chris to make a motion. And what we'll do, since Chris is on the region, we'll go in this order for motion. We'll do region, and then union, and then Northborough and Southborough. Although Northborough and Southborough technically votes don't count, we always do it just to honor everyone's vote. Thanks, Chris.
I make a motion to amend the superintendent's contract for school year 2025-26, increasing the superintendent's fiscal year 25 base salary of $231,010 by 3.5%, resulting in a fiscal year 26 base salary of $239,095. Second.
Any discussion? Is this a roll call vote or no?
No.
All in favor? Any opposed? It passes unanimously.
Thank you.
So move for union.
Second.
Moved by Bryce, second by Chelsea. All those in favor? One. Laura, this is for the motion, by Chris. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Perfect, that passes unanimously. All right, and now we'll move to Northborough.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Joan, second by Bryce. Any discussion? All those in favor? Excellent, passes unanimously. Southborough?
So move for Southborough.
Second. Any discussion? All in favor? Unanimous.
Great, thank you. So Greg, we just want to say thank you so much for all of your leadership in our district. We think that the 3.5% is well-deserved, both just for COLA as well as merit, for all the work that you do. As Kathleen had said earlier, you really are one superintendent, 2, 3 districts, so.
4 or 5, that's how it feels.
So we just thank you for your leadership, and we look forward to next year.
Well, thank you.
Of course. So we do have public comments. Is anyone in the audience who would like to comment?
You have to limit it to 15 minutes.
All right, so we do get to adjourn this evening. All right, so let's start with Northborough.
I'll take a motion to adjourn the Northborough K-8 School Committee at 7:32 PM.
So moved.
Second?
Any discussion? All in favor? Voted unanimous?
Excellent, Southborough.
Move to adjourn Southborough at 7:32. Is there a second? Second. By Laura. All in favor? Unanimous.
I'll move to adjourn the region at 7:32.
So moved?
Second?
Any yeah, you can be second. Any discussion? All in favor? And it's unanimous.
And the union, I'll move the same motion.
Second? Second. Either one, I'll give
Heard
up.
Bryce first.
Sorry.
All right, all those in favor? Perfect. Sorry, did you raise your hand?
Yeah, I did.
Okay,
I was
perfect.
late, sorry.
All right, it is, I get to do the gavel, 7:32. We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.